starting the recording now.
Well, we might just start. We'll take it slowly. It is early Monday morning, 16th of May. Welcome everyone to this third in the series of our online seminars around our project on circular economy. We will start first with our acknowledgement to country. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia, and especially the people of the Kulin Nations. We recognize their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Thank you very much, Glenn. So we are a team from Monash University, Monash Business School, and in this project, we are partnering with the Southeast Melbourne Manufacturing Alliance. This is a project that has been funded by Sustainability Victoria and some funding from Monash Business School, which we started at the end of October last year. That involved 3 phases, and this is our final phase where we are undertaking a series of online seminars and then about 2 or 2.5 hours face-to-face workshops, which we start Thursday next week. We have a visitor from overseas to help us do that as well, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. So our team, let me introduce myself, Amrit Sohal. I'm in the Department of Management as a professor, where I've been now for 31 years. My colleague, Associate Professor Glenn Croy, he will be joining me in presenting today. Our other colleagues are Daniel Prajogo, Christian Rotaru from the Department of Accounting within the Business School, Annie Bhattacharya, Elka Nand, and Dr. Sarika Divas, who is our full-time research fellow working on this project. And as I said, our partner is SEMA, and Wanda Fenwick is the CEO of SEMA. Also supporting us in a number of different ways is Patrick Ross. Thank you very much, Patrick, for joining us this morning. And we are very pleased that all of you are here this morning. I'm sure others will be joining us. We've had a good turnout for the first 2 seminars held on Thursday and Friday last week, and one tomorrow morning as well. Thank you, Glenn. Over to you. What are we here for?
Thank you very much, Amrit, and again, welcome to everybody to the seminar. It is part of a series, and we're very pleased to have you join us today to learn more about our project, but also so that we can talk about what our goals are. And so largely today, what we're going to be highlighting is the strategic importance of the circular economy. And we're doing this through 4 different stages. First is to raise your awareness of what the circular economy is. And we'll talk about some of the concepts and some of the models to hopefully provide this in a relatively brief but practical way as well. With the use of others' previous experiences, we're going to introduce you to the reasons why to adopt circular economy practices and also the benefits of doing this. We're going to be particularly drawing on some videos from some of our other participants that we've had across the first 2 stages of this project. We're also going to provide you starting points for the circular economy adoption journey, about where to start, how to start, and then also some of the practices that could be adopted along that way. So broadly or overarching today, we're looking at both boosting the strategic importance of the circular economy, but also to give you some ideas about where to start that journey with some initial practices as well. So our big question then for today is, why general manufacturing? Well, general manufacturing is hugely important to the Australian economy and also to the employment profile of the country. However, it also produces substantial amounts of waste. And whilst we're seeing significant efforts in place to help reduce that waste and also to capture the value of it, we're seeing that there's much greater opportunity to extend this even further. And one of the ways to retain the value, rather than to produce this as waste, but to retain the value of those resources, is through adopting the process that we call the circular economy. And that's what we want to focus on today, is about highlighting what circular economy is, what are some of those practices, so that we can start reducing the amount of waste and retaining that value within our production systems. So what is the circular economy? Well, I'd like to start with Ellen MacArthur and what she highlights as the circular economy. She notes that it's an industrial economy that is restorative or regenerative by intention and design. And I want to unpack that by looking at 4 different aspects. The first one is, as we can see along the top, it's an approach that requires a change in mindset and behaviors. And largely this is moving away from that mindset of the products or the services that we create, or generally within general manufacturing, about the products we create, but rather seeing it as the materials and the components. And as Andrew Egan, one of our participants, has noted, we see their product, they see what they are doing, not as products, but as the materials and the mechanisms or the means to retain those materials within their value system. That then relates to, or translates to, moving from a linear business model, which is the take, make, and waste or destroy, to a circular one, and particularly across multiple industries. And largely we emphasize 2 things to move from that linear to the circular. The first is about minimization, and it's about minimizing the resource inputs and the emissions that we have within our own production system, but also across our supply chain. And we do this through close collaboration through our supply network. And it's about slowing, narrowing, and closing the loops, particularly of the raw or virgin materials entering our supply chain. And so that we're capturing much greater use to regenerate those resources through those supply chain systems. The second element, in addition to minimize, is to maximize. And in here, we're talking about maximizing efficiency and maximizing our value or our use of the resources that we're using, which then also relates to waste reduction in the supply chain. And the more minimization and the greater the maximization of efficiency, the closer we get to a closed loop supply chain. So I'm going to present now what we call the butterfly model. And this is again from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And what we see in the butterfly model is that the circular economy is largely divided into 2 groups, the biological on the left and the technical on the right. Now, within each of these, we can see the linear model down the center, from taking or identifying the materials, taking them, manufacturing them, selling them, and then collection and potentially through to waste. But what we're very interested in is, instead of going through just a linear path in the middle, is using the butterfly wings or these loops out to the left and to the right. For the biological loop, largely what we're focused on here is reconstituting the biological elements and returning them into the value process. And so this here is through, first and foremost, increased use of those biological products through the process, but then also making sure that we're reintroducing them back into our system so that they can then create the foundation for our future products. However, within the circular economy, we often see a greater emphasis on the technological, largely the human-made elements of our processes. And what we're looking at here is not only providing the ability to maintain, to reuse, to refurbish, or to recycle these technical goods, but importantly, it's about creating these opportunities within our processes. So we need to make sure that within the products that we're producing and the processes that we're using, that we're enabling the opportunities for maintenance. We're enabling the opportunities for reuse. We're enabling the opportunities for refurbishment and remanufacturing within this process, not only for ourselves, but also for our customers as well. And this enables us to retain those resources within our value system for longer and through these greater cycles. The next question then is, how do we do this? Well, within the circular economy, we talk about loops. And I mentioned earlier in passing about these closed loops. So I want to talk about these three different loops: the short loops, the medium loops, and the long loops. And largely what we see here across these 10 R's from R0 to R9 are different practices. And so these practices are in the center row here. And generally we see an adoption of the practices on the left side. And then as we mature within our circular economy adoption, we move further and further to the right. So very basically, or very broadly, in the short loops, what we see here is the identification of the refusal. And this is generally refusing elements to join our supply chain. And this is generally about refusing harmful inputs to our supply chain or wasteful inputs to our supply chain. The next one is about reducing. And generally this is about the outputs of our processes. So we're reducing waste within our system, but also as an outcome of our system where our processes. Third is about resell and reuse within our own system, but also the ability for our products that we're producing to be reused and resold afterwards. So it's not just a single customer product that we're creating. And then finally for R3, which is repair, is providing us the opportunity to repair and to maintain our goods, but also providing the opportunity for our customers to repair and maintain their goods as well, which then keeps that product, the resources, in the system for longer. We then move up to the medium loops, and these are characterized by accepting goods back into our business and then being able to rebuild them for further use. And we can do this through refurbishing, which is generally through a process of dismantling and putting back together, remanufacturing, where we might need to do some larger elements within that process, through identifying the component parts, potentially joining in some new component parts into the goods to then resell, or finally repurposing, where again we dismantle the product, but then we recreate it as something else for our market. And then finally the long loops, which are these last three R's, R7, R8, and R9. And these are about designing the opportunity for new value to be gained from the products, the services, the materials, the components that we have to be captured at the end of life, either through recycling, through energy recovery, or remining. And remining, for example, might be that at the end of life, that the materials that we have can be then captured or taken from that product and then again joined back in to be a new value element within our creation. So I'd now like to pass it back to Amrit, who will talk more about the project that we've been undertaking.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Of course, the things we've been talking about, reducing waste and improving efficiencies, and now talking about circularity. Certainly, waste and improving efficiency is not, new to manufacturing businesses. When I started work in the manufacturing industry 30 years ago, we were at that time starting a major revolution to do with quality improvement, total quality management. That was, all around improving quality, reducing waste, reducing variation in your processes, and so on. And then we've gone through, other revolutions around just in time and lean. So a lot of manufacturing executives, most of you will be familiar with, the need to understand processes and manage variation and reduce waste and so on. But here we are extending those concepts to now thinking about those loops and thinking about the different R's. So this project, Sparking the Circular Economy in the manufacturing industry, particularly in the Southeast Melbourne area, as I said before, we started back in October. We started an online survey. Some of you may have completed the online survey, and we started to do some interviews. Most of them were online interviews, but we did visit a number of companies as well. Went on site, had a look at what was happening, and we ended up with 25 interviews that we have completed and analyzed. And that interview session lasted approximately an hour. We talked about what were the drivers for businesses adopting the circular economy concepts and practices. We talked about what are some of the practices that have been adopted and so on. We talked about, particularly the benefits. Why would you want to do this? What are the benefits that you're seeking or you have achieved? And of course, we want to identify what the critical success factors are, because we want to use that knowledge on the success factors to build our implementation map, if you like, the roadmap that we want to work with you during our workshops in a couple of weeks' time. Here in this session today, I just want to very briefly talk about the advantages or the benefits from circular economy. And these are also talked about in our very short videos that we have recorded, including some of the companies that we have written case studies around. So Glenn, the next slide talks about these identified advantages or benefits from implementing good circular economy practices divided into internal and external practices. Internal practices, obviously, to upscale, their businesses, moving beyond simply thinking about quality internally or just-in-time lean type of practices to now really including your suppliers and creating that, complete, loop, whether it's a short loop you started thinking about or the longer loops. But certainly upscaling your business operations and so on. And companies talked about, a number of economic benefits. Certainly, doing things right first time, no waste, improved efficiencies and so on, directly relates to profitability. So there are clear, profit motives, if you like, and economic benefits. Others talked about, creating a better culture. It's a better place to work. You're known as a good company and environmentally friendly company, both by your employees and by the community and your customers. Relating to external benefits, of course, being known as an environmentally friendly company, taking care of your waste, taking care of the resources, you have a better image in the community amongst your peers and your customers and so on. So better marketing and branding benefits. And of course, better products for the customers. So there's a win-win for everyone here. And you end up with a very improved and a highly efficient and effective, supply network. Now, some of these things will be talked about, as I said, in these very short videos that we are presenting to you. I think our next first video is coming up, Glenn. Thank you. We just having.
It's about how we source, design, manufacture, utilize resources, and how we recover those resources and reutilize them. That's the economy, how we manage our environment around us.
Really about bringing our personal philosophy to the business, about being a sustainable business.
Definitely a personal desire to be part of the sustainability movement and to do it on a level that was much bigger than just an individual basis.
Part of the company DNA from 1983, utilizing the 3R of remand, reduce, and recycling, which was initially utilized to reduce the waste in components in vehicle electronics while capturing niche opportunity as a business.
Being resourceful and sustainable with your practices, again, it can result in economic gain. So turning your waste into value, turning your waste into worth, that is the win-win with the circular economy.
The way that we've designed our products has been with that whole sustainability and that whole circular life cycle in mind.
The benefits of the circular economy cannot be overestimated.
It gives me a great sense of pride to know that we've been instrumental in creating major reduction in waste.
Huge economic benefits. Profit and sustainability don't need to be mutually exclusive. In fact, we've found that by being resourceful and economical with our resources has resulted in greater profits.
Can get a financial benefit if we reincorporate them into our product.
We've saved a lot of money.
Cost down benefit of it, as well as the marketing benefits that ensue.
We're definitely seeing a major shift in consumer sentiment. If consumers are given the option of a business that does things sustainably and a business that doesn't, all things being equal, reports are showing that there's 70 to 80% of consumers that will actually go with the sustainable business.
It gave us some competitive edge compared to our competitors.
Our circular economy credentials provide an excellent marketing tool. It gives us a point of difference compared to our competitors. So people want to buy our products because they also believe in what we're doing. They like what we're doing.
For us, we're getting a lot more attention from a business to business commercial point of view and a lot more government engagement. So our impact not only on the environment, but also on others, and the way that we can actually create things for others has been a massive benefit for our company, and the growth trajectory we're on at the moment is being stimulated by the recognition of our contribution to the circular economy.
Future-proofing the supply chain of minerals and materials already in circulation, thus providing an alternative solution for our customers of high-quality products at a reasonable cost.
I think one of the greatest benefits has actually been that we've built trust with our customers, and trust in our reputation that we are people who, the people that comprise the business are passionate about trying to make a difference.
An affinity with your patrons. The patrons really buy into the refillable bottle program. They also like to hear about the spent grain going to the farm.
We can feel the energy building within the business and beyond.
It makes us an employer of choice. So it's very good in terms of attracting and retaining employees.
We're seeing a real cultural boost within our team because they know they're doing good and they're doing things that are actually feeding into a system that recognises how well that they are doing in that circular economy and the reduction of waste.
Our staff are more invested in our journey and are proud of the work that we're doing. They like working for an environmental, sustainable company.
Knowing that actually the company they're working is actually doing something about the environment.
There's the clear environmental impact. So for us, it's about creating a greener planet, and that everything we do contributes to that.
People want to know where their product's coming from. They want to know it's being produced in a sustainable manner. They want to know what's happening with their waste. A lot of big companies are doing environmental reporting now.
Very keen on the environmental principles, and also the key staff here were also very much environmentally conscious.
Businesses certainly influence other businesses to do similar sorts of things as well.
They've developed a progressive and they're tapping into that progressive thinking. So they're always working out ways in which they can contribute to the circular economy in a better way, and coming to us with brand new ideas all the time. And
so while it might sound soft, that, reputation and trust might seem like a soft kind of benefit, it has very real business outcomes.
It makes, again, economic sense as well as environmental sense.
Thank you very much, Glenn. So you see people talking on the video from a number of different companies, a number of different types of manufacturing businesses and so on. So we thank them for their time and helping us with these videos. So it makes economic sense, the last point made on the video, environmental sense, and many benefits socially as well. So how do we start this journey? And that's what we want to do, just to get started during this seminar, but really through our workshops, it's really help you to start that journey, think about what could be done, and help you develop that roadmap for that journey, which may be, at least thinking what you could do in the next 1 or 2 years. So it's developing, the motivation and using the right approach or models, if you like, and building on the experience of others. That's been identified as one of the critical success factors, that you build on the experience of others. And there's a lot of experience already demonstrated through our interviews across Melbourne. So we want to guide you in starting that journey. We want to facilitate your adoption of circular economy practices that are, unique or applicable to your business, and at least get you rolling, if you like, in achieving, the first 2 R's: R0, refuse, and R1, reduce, in the short loops. So refuse, R0 is all about thinking about your processes and thinking about your product, and thinking about, redesigning those processes so that you can monitor and think about refusing inputs that may lead to waste, both in terms of, materials coming in or components coming into your business that don't fit in with your processes, that they don't fit in with your value system, and they're going to lead to waste and so on. So thinking about refusing, and even refusing design options that are difficult to manufacture. They will produce waste in the manufacturing processes, and there are no end-of-life option for those design variations and so on. So you can think about, refusing all of those things that may lead to waste, and of course, refusal of use of hazardous materials, and any other virgin materials where you can use, recycled materials and so on. The second R there relates to reduce. This is again thinking about the products that you manufacture, the packaging materials that you use, and the logistical system that you have in place. Reduce in the sense of using less of everything. Some of you learned to perhaps do that over the last 20 years when you've thought about just in time and lean. And that was all about doing more with less. So this is not, unfamiliar to the manufacturing industries, reducing and doing more with less materials, and of course less waste and so on, and really redesigning or adopting processes that will be much more efficient, won't have any waste, and gives you options to do different things as well. So we could talk, about more of these things in our workshops as well. Glenn, the next slide is another video where our interviews are again talking about their journey that they've undertook and what they've achieved and the practices they've adopted. Thank you, Glenn.
Sustainability and circularity are a little bit different. And when it comes to contributing to a circular economy, it's the cradle to cradle concept that is a really important element that a lot of companies are missing. But the cradle to cradle concept, where you're creating a modular product or a modular process that can actually be redesigned, reused, redeployed, refurbished, that is the essence of that circular economy journey.
I mean, the first few steps were quite simple. Things that we were doing at home, we brought to the business. So it's quite simple, quite easy, really.
Wanting to be part of a movement is one thing, but ensuring that it makes business sense is another.
We looked at the value stream and pulling value through the supply chain to ensure that it's compliant and meets the highest standards.
Well, for the EV batteries, it was understanding the opportunity, the volume, and the technology to make it a possibility. As per any business ideas, the financial needs to stack up, and the return or benefit needs to be realized for a number of given years.
Our journey involved becoming as efficient as possible with the use of the major resource that we use in our pallet manufacturing division, which is obviously timber. In order to reduce our spend on timber, we began using recycled timber wherever possible. So, for example, if we're repairing 1,000 pallets, there might be 50 out of that 1,000 pallets that are beyond economical repair, they're too badly damaged. So we would dismantle those pallets. We've got specialized equipment to do that. And out of that 50 pallets, we might be able to produce enough timber to repair, several hundred of the repairable pallets. So it saves us a lot of money if we can reuse recycled timber rather than using new timber. it's less than half the price.
But more importantly, it's about the environmental benefit which can be attributed to a said cause. For example, a 120 kilowatt hour BESS unit could save potentially of 42 tons of CO2 from a second application EV battery. So each of those CO2 cost saving has a cost value. And that's how you equate the benefit from that perspective as well.
For us, it was really about doing our market research and making sure that the market that we were creating, and we had to test again and again that there was a market for it. And for our particular product, we needed to make sure that not just the consumers that we wanted to use the product were happy to use it, that they desired it, that they wanted it, but we also had to make sure that the cafes and restaurants that support the use or the reuse of the product by facilitating the container exchange program, that they were equally as invested and happy to deal with the product.
Everything is led by design, and I'm not talking about product design. I'm talking about business process design. I'm talking about manufacturing process design. It was all about waste minimization. It all comes down to how well you design and plan your processes within your business and within your manufacturing.
First sought and achieved GECA accreditation.
Process of getting the GECA accreditation, we had to change our manufacturing processes, and one first part was to implement product stewardship into our business model. So accepting the goods back and that sort of stuff. So it started with that, and then slowly started growing into other departments like materials, wherever possible, sending the scraps to supply and so on. So it's slowly expanding.
So the Product Stewardship Act looked at removing waste, maximising resources, reducing energy, reducing emissions at a product level across materials, products and services. So we've implemented from day one, we've implemented the principles of product stewardship, circular economy, which is design out waste, design for longevity, and design for recovery of resources.
Thank you, Glenn. So you can see that a number of companies across Melbourne have made a very, very successful start to their journey, focusing on refuse and recycle. Here's what you do. Some more examples from our 25 companies that we've looked at. Examples of refuse, only sourcing sustainably supplied certified raw materials and components as well. Putting in practices in the procurement area that are sustainable. Large companies we know that we have worked with are spending millions of dollars on completely rechanging their mindset in of the procurement professionals and doing their procurement in a much more sustainable manner, and maximize the material sourced from Australian suppliers. And that's becoming more important, especially the problems that we've experienced during the COVID pandemic with shipping issues and so on. So finding suppliers locally, developing their capability, working with them, integrating them into your supply chains so that you have secure materials supplied by your local suppliers here. And of course, refusing hazardous materials and refusing packaging. In some industries, packaging is not thought about seriously. There's either substantial over packaging, or one doesn't know what to do with the packaging when products being delivered. There's no thought about how to recycle packaging or how to use repackaging materials and so on. In terms of R1, reduce, much of the focus is on, as we said before already, reducing use of your virgin materials and so on, relying more on recycled materials, using packaging made from Australian recycled materials. That's becoming more important. Of course, designing products so that the use life period is much longer, and you can refurbish, you can do whatever else you can so that longevity is extended as much as possible. Of course, to do with energy, a lot of companies have already installed solar panels, LED lighting and so on. They are pretty common now. Companies are focusing on using advanced manufacturing technologies. We have some good examples in our 25 case studies where much of the focus is on using advanced technologies that do the right job, reduce a lot of waste, especially when you're thinking about cutting materials such as sheet steel and fabrics and so on. And of course, heat generation via burning waste and so on. Water collection, we're using that water and so on. And other last 2 points there relate to use of electronic forklifts and so on. Of course, we're going to move to electronic vehicles, electronic trucks and so on. We already have electric cars and so on. And thinking more seriously about packaging, reusable packaging. At the moment, much of our products come from overseas. A lot of technology used, a lot of materials come from overseas. They are well packaged, of course, to protect them, during transportation. But what do we do with that packaging? And the good example, one of our speakers on the video was from Smart Recycling, where they handle pallets and so on. A lot of the pallets that come from Europe or the USA, they're of somewhat different size and they can't be reused here in Australia. So there are issues like that as well. Glenn, to the next slide, please. So what are our next steps, Glenn, in this project? I'll pass back to you.
Thank you very much, Emeric. So what are our next steps? So what we're going to talk about shortly is those workshops that Emeric introduced right at the beginning. But before our workshops, we've got 4 steps to do now. And largely these are about starting the conversation within the workplace. We appreciate the number of you are in the top management team. And so hopefully you'll be able to engage your colleagues within these discussions quite easily. But if you're not in the top management team, then please still continue these or start these conversations with the top managers. So our first action point is to discuss circular economy and the relevant practices with the top management team. And broadly, again, what we're looking for you to do is to start a conversation so that we've got the circular economy being a topic of conversation within the organisation, because we've noted within around 25 cases that the start is starting somewhere, and usually it's starting from an internal motivation and an internal conversation. A second point is to identify supply chain partners who may take the circular economy journey with you. Within the seminar, we've highlighted that a lot of this elements, particularly in the refuse, but also in the reduce, is about collaborating with your supply chain to both identify the appropriate supplies for the organisation and what to do with the waste within that process as well. So identify those supply chain partners who may be able to collaborate within those conversations. Third is identify the waste streams within the business and within the wider supply chain as well. Again, what we're looking for you to do is to sensitise your attention to those elements which may be creating waste, but they may also have opportunities to help capture the value from those and to return them into, or return that value into the supply chain as well. And then finally is to consider which CE practices, circular economy practices, might best fit with you in the business, but also with your key partners in that supply chain. So overall, what we're looking to do is just to think about, to converse or to have a conversation about what is circular economy for the business, who are the potential partners in both the supply chain and the waste streams, and then to also think about the specific practices. So those are just things to do today, tomorrow, the day after. But what we want to focus on more is to facilitate your adoption more widely. And as noted, we're going to do this through the workshops. So our workshops are going to be specifically focused on action outcomes. And what we mean is that through these workshops, we will be looking for you to create a plan to implement circular economy practices within your business. And we'll be doing or developing those specific business-specific aspects through interactive activities, within which these will be targeted to your specific needs, but done so in a way that we've got some collaborative input, not only with us as the facilitators, but also with other businesses. And what we've found is that's extremely important. That collaborative network of support with your peers is very important to both maintain the motivation, but also to be great sounding boards as to the practices, but also the motivation to persist with the adoption of these circular economy practices. So within the workshops, we're going to assign you some brief, basic pre-workshop self-assessments, which we'll look at we'll look at the next slide. But within the workshop, building upon these pre-workshop activities, we'll welcome you, we'll allocate you to groups, again, based upon that pre-workshop activities. We're going to go through activities focusing on the refuse, R0, and R1, reduce. And within each of these, we're going to identify the different challenges and opportunities that your business is faced with at this moment. We'll look at some examples of supply chain change and the adoption of circular economy practices as developed and evidenced by some of the other businesses that we've observed and interviewed through this process, but also from other practices around the world. We'll identify some of the barriers or challenges that may exist in adopting these changes, because we know that change isn't necessarily easy, but if we can identify them and develop plans to overcome these barriers, that will make it easier to persist with these changes. Now, from these processes, looking at your specific business, looking at the different opportunities for change, looking at the barriers that we can address, we'll then develop an implementation plan so that you can both adopt practices to both refuse and to reduce, which will help reduce the waste profile, but also enhance the efficiency and the effectiveness within the business context. So for the pre-workshop activities, so again, I want to emphasize that this is a basic process of assessment. What we'll be asking you to do is to do a very basic overview of which of the 10R practices that you're currently implementing, and also get a brief insight into your circular economy maturity profile. Again, these are just going to highlight to us where you are on that journey, and it's okay not to have progressed or to be on that journey as yet. Again, what we're targeting here is to facilitate these R0 and R1, the early stages of this journey. We've also got two basic self-assessments, one for your top 4 suppliers, looking at what the opportunities are for refusal. Now, this is again looking at what they supply, the quantity, the quality issues, the credentials, and what other opportunities there may be. Now, in here, we're not emphasizing or suggesting that there's change to your suppliers. What we're highlighting here is that the opportunity to make sure that what is being supplied, the amount and the quality, etc., is aligned with the values of your business, and that can create opportunities to reduce waste through that process. The second basic self-assessment is for the waste profile of the business. And again, what we're looking for you to do is to identify what waste streams exist in the business, how much waste is generated, how regularly, and what's done with that waste. And importantly, related to that is how much that's costing you as a business. So again, based on this pre-workshop activity, we'll be in a very good position so that we can target activities specific to your business within our workshop. So these workshops, we've got 4 of these. These are repeats of one another, so just attend one is fine. You can come and join another if you wish. But we've got them, as Amrit said, in a fortnight's time. In 26th of May in Kingston, 27th of May in Frankston, 1st of June in Monash, and 2nd of June in Dandenong. Again, these are repeated workshops, so please come to the one that's closest to you or the one that's most available to you. And we're very much looking forward to welcome you to those sessions. So again, that we're emphasis on this action outcome through the interactive business activities or business specific activities, and to develop this collaborative network to support you in the persistent adoption of their circular economy practices. We're wanting to finish, well, this is the finish of the seminar this morning, but we're also wanting to provide a brief amount of time for any questions. So does anyone have any questions?
If I may just re-emphasize the need or the importance of collaboration and accessing resources through this project and beyond this project, we would like to be a core part of that collaborative network. We have a team of 6 people from the business school. There are other resources at Monash University that we can draw upon. We are in the process of setting up a website as well around this project, Circular Economy. And through that website, we'll be making available lots of resources for you. And of course, continue to organize seminars and workshops over the coming 1-2 years, so that you have a good level of support for your journey. Trying to do it on your own is extremely difficult. We know that from our past experience, 30 years looking at Australian businesses here, of their adoption of quality methods and other systems and processes and techniques. We know that collaboration is very, very important. Learning from the experience is very, very important. And of course, there are many other challenges and barriers as well. But of course, there are enormous benefits. So recognizing those benefits, understanding those barriers, and having that support network around you will be essential for your journey. And we're here to help you achieve that.
And I've just posted in the chat space a very brief survey. It's got 3 scale questions on it. We need this for our reporting processes, but it's also very important for us to feed into the workshops as well. So if you could please complete the survey, that'd be much appreciated.
And we will be sending you by email. We have your email address. We'll be sending you an email in the next day or 2, so that you can register through the link provided for one of these workshops coming up very soon. It's a 2-hour, a little bit, maybe 2-hour, 2.5-hour workshop. It'll be the Monash team. We have a visitor coming from the Netherlands who's arriving on Saturday this week. Will be here for 2 weeks. Brings lots of knowledge and experience from the Netherlands, which is regarded as a leading nation, becoming a circular economy in many respects, way ahead of many other countries around the world. So we have that resource with us as well. And of course, we'll be drawing upon, again, the 25 companies, use the videos or invite some of those people to come along to one of the workshops and share their experience face-to-face with us as well. So exciting workshop planned, and please sign up, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you so much. Glenn, is there anything else?